The scale of equal justice. The mahogany doors of the courtroom swung open with a heavy, rhythmic thud, announcing the arrival of a presence that commanded respect even before a single word was uttered. On the bench sat a woman whose very essence was a blend of diverse American landscapes. If one were to look at the nameplate resting on the polished wood, they would read the name Judge Ebony K. Rose. To her, that nameplate was not just a title but a testament to a philosophy of life. She often told those who entered her sanctuary of law that the only thing that mattered in this particular courtroom was how she saw the truth. She was a woman crafted from the red clay of North Carolina and the vibrant spirit of Louisiana, seasoned with a touch of West Coast cool and sharpened by a New York edge. On this particular morning, the atmosphere was thick with the remnants of a friendship turned sour. The judge looked down at the woman standing before her. "Do we have a problem, ma'am?" she asked, her voice a calm but firm melody. The woman, Jenny Sim, shook her head quickly. "No, I do not, Your Honor," she replied. The judge leaned back, her eyes scanning the room. She believed that equal justice was the cornerstone of the most important values of the country. Freedom and integrity were not just words to her. They were the goals she strove for every time she donned her black robe. She looked at the parties involved and reminded them of a simple truth of life. A person runs their own household, and in this space, every individual had the right to their own agency. Judge Ebony had pursued the law because she wanted to be a voice for the voiceless. However, she also knew that the court could not hold someone accountable without a clear understanding of the human heart and the facts at hand. Her courtroom was a crossroads for people from all sectors of life, whether they were black, white, purple, gay, straight, or queer. That was the definition of equal justice under the guidance of Judge Ebony K. Williams. The case before her today involved 3 young women whose lives had become entangled in a web of domestic frustration. Jenny Sim, the plaintiff, claimed she had been injured after her roommate's sister shoved her during a heated argument. On the other side stood the defendants, Carrie Smith and Melissa Smith. The sisters argued that Jenny had been pushed away only after she had damaged Carrie's phone. The Smiths were countersuing for the amount of $251.28. "Hello, ladies," the judge began, her tone welcoming yet professional. "I see I've got Jenny Sim here as my plaintiff and 2 defendants, Melissa and Carrie Smith. I see, Ms. Sim, you are suing for $430, and then I see the defendants are countersuing for $251.28. Ms. Sim, why are we in court today?" Jenny Sim took a deep breath. "Hello, Your Honor," she began. "We are here today because I am suing for the $430 that I accumulated in medical bills. I was living with the defendant Melissa for a while, and then her sister Carrie moved in. Basically, one night we had an argument, and Carrie came in and pushed me. I sprained my wrist, and the $430 is the emergency room visit bill." The judge raised an eyebrow. "So, you two had a fight?" "Melissa and I were arguing, and then Carrie stepped in the middle to do what?" "I do not know," Jenny explained. The judge sought clarification on the identities of the women. "I am Melissa," one sister said. "You are Melissa, and you are Carrie," the judge noted, pointing to each in turn. "Okay, so you said Carrie is who you are alleging put her hands on you?" "Carrie put her hands on me," Jenny confirmed. The judge leaned forward, wanting to understand the history of their relationship. "Tell me the context," she urged. "First of all, how do you know these 2 ladies? How long did you live with the first?" Jenny explained that she and Melissa had met in college, through mutual friends. They were part of a larger social circle. While they were not the closest of friends, they were certainly not frenemies. After graduation, Jenny believed Melissa would be a compatible roommate. They moved in together, and for a year, things were great. Melissa paid her bills on time, which the judge noted was the most important part of a compatible living arrangement. The trouble began when Carrie moved in. Initially, the 2 had shared a 3-bedroom unit, using the extra room for guests and storage. When Carrie arrived, she moved into that 3rd room. However, unlike the original arrangement, Carrie was not paying rent. "Tell me more," the judge prompted. Jenny explained that the arrangement was supposed to be temporary, a way to help Carrie while she was between jobs. Jenny had agreed, because she did not expect it to last for 3 months. She had imagined a month at the most, assuming that someone proactive would find work quickly. The presence of a third person disrupted the harmony of the home. Jenny found herself doing the majority of the cleaning, a task she had tolerated when it was just her and Melissa, but one that became burdensome with Carrie's arrival. The confrontation finally occurred on the 1st of August. Jenny had gone out for the night, and when she returned at 8 o'clock in the morning, she found the apartment in a state of total disarray. "Talk about the fight, ma'am," the judge said. "Let us get to why we are here." Jenny admitted that she had reached her breaking point. After months of talking to Melissa about her frustrations, she walked into the mess and, in her own words, popped off. "What does that mean?" the judge asked, her New York edge showing. "You popped off. You cussed her out. You yelled at her. What did you say?" "I would not say I cussed her out, but I cussed at her," Jenny admitted. "I came home at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was a mess." The argument escalated in the living room, with both Jenny and Melissa yelling at each other. It was then that Carrie emerged from her room and stepped into the middle of the conflict. According to Jenny, Carrie pushed her, causing her to fall and sprain her wrist as she tried to break her fall. The judge examined the medical receipts Jenny provided. There were records for general procedures, x-rays, and non-surgical treatments. Although insurance had covered some costs, Jenny was still responsible for $430. The bill was currently in collections, and Jenny was hoping a favorable ruling would allow her to settle the debt. The judge then turned her attention to the defendants. "Melissa, is she categorizing the roommate situation accurately?" Melissa agreed that they were college friends who had chosen to live together for financial reasons. She had been excited to have her sister around and had even tried to include Jenny in their sister nights, which involved romantic comedies, wine, snacks, and lounging in pajamas. Jenny, however, had not participated. On the night in question, Melissa and Carrie had enjoyed one of these nights and left their things out, intending to clean up in the morning. Melissa was woken by Jenny screaming and being aggressive. Carrie, hearing the commotion, came out to defend her sister. What Jenny forgot to mention, Melissa added, is that she knocked Carrie's phone out of her hand first. It fell onto the floor, and the screen shattered. Out of a pure reaction of defense, that is when Carrie pushed her away. Carrie joined the explanation, stating she had woken up to terrible screaming and cussing. She saw Jenny in her sister's face and stepped in to defuse the situation, thinking her sister was in peril. "Did you think your sister was in peril?" the judge asked. "Yes," Carrie replied. "I stepped in the middle because they got really close to each other. Jenny then overreacted and smacked my phone. It fell and shattered." Carrie presented a receipt for $251.28 for a cracked screen replacement, a bill she had already paid and for which she was seeking reimbursement. The judge pondered the situation. She asked Carrie if the push was an act of retaliation for the damaged phone. Carrie maintained it was a simultaneous reaction. She claimed Jenny was off balance because of a nearby coffee table and that the fall was not the result of an aggressive push. The judge was not convinced. "Table or no table," she said, "once that contact was there, that is an assault. That is a harmful or offensive touching of another." The focus shifted back to the moment the phone was damaged. Jenny claimed she was merely waving her arms to get Carrie out of her face and did not intend to hit the phone. She claimed she was not even aware Carrie was holding a phone. However, Carrie insisted that Jenny had specifically said, "Get that thing out of my face," indicating she knew exactly what she was hitting. After hearing both sides, Judge Ebony was ready to rule. She addressed the women with the wisdom of someone who had seen many such disputes. "When you have a signed contractual roommate agreement," she began, "you have to abide by those terms. You allowed the sister to stay, and you did not specify what temporary meant. Therefore, the court does not feel 3 months is an extensive time for a job search." However, she turned her gaze to Carrie. "It was not reasonable for you to voluntarily insert yourself into an altercation and bring your phone into the line of fire. You chose to do that. Therefore, the court will not recognize your claim for the phone. The counterclaim is dismissed." Finally, she addressed Jenny. "You are suing for $430 for your injury. However, the court feels that you invited some level of harm when you chose to pop off. You cannot control the reaction of others when you escalate a situation in that manner. I am sorry you were injured, and I am glad you are recovered, but the $430 you incurred is your own fault. The plaintiff's case is also dismissed. The gavel fell, signaling the end of the matter. Both cases were dismissed. As the women prepared to leave, Jenny had one final thought to share. After you guys moved out, I got a cat, she said. And he leaves litter everywhere. And he is still cleaner than you guys. Congratulations, sweetie, one of the sisters remarked sarcastically. The judge watched them go, wishing them the best as they moved forward from this chapter of their lives. In the room of equal justice, the scales had found their balance, leaving each party to carry the weight of their own choices.